Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. It is great to see you all this morning. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax, and let's chat about what is going on in the stars above. And of course, today is that day that we've been looking at for a long time, along with the entire weekend of astrology transits and things to watch out for, especially today, the lunar eclipse, which happens to engage the sun and Mercury, the moon, Uranus, Eris. We have quite the day. But like everything else that I usually bring up to you, it isn't just today, right? We've been looking at this energy building up for the last several days, because these type of events, the lunar eclipses, the solar eclipses, major conjunctions, they don't just happen in a vacuum or a void where it just one day it's there and the next day it's gone. No, siree, Bob. These are transits that actually occur and they build over time. They get to the crescendo and then they wane over time. So yay, though, today is the day of the eclipse. For me, it's at, I think it said 11:21 this morning. Yeah, 11:21 a.m. Pacific time. So 12:21 for you all on the East Coast. And nighttime as you move over into Europe and beyond. That is when the full moon lunar eclipse will occur. But as you can tell probably from your own life, these things haven't just been happening over that one day. It's not like today all hell breaks loose. It's been something that's been coming and, sort of morphing into something over the course of time. And eclipses are something that it's important for you to remember don't end just today either. They tend to have echoes. They sort of set the stage, if you will, and then there are echoes of it throughout the next 6 months or so before the next lunar eclipse in this case happens, or the next solar eclipse happens. So they're bracketed between the other eclipses as well that have happened across Cancer and Capricorn over the last year and a half, or year actually. So they build one upon the other, and they are in an area of your chart then for an extended period of time. So there shouldn't be any surprises today in terms of the lunar eclipse. Right? There shouldn't be any big major, oh no, I didn't know that. It should be that you've been aware of this energy that's been building up and that it gets to a crescendo point here at a specific degree, which means it may be bringing in energies from other planets. It could be bringing in the energy from, other signs that happen to be in alignment with that degree of the zodiac. So it's a more complex picture than what you would seem to think of just here today we are at the lunar eclipse and voila, boom, right? No, it takes time, it builds up, it comes to the point, and then it wanes. So things that may happen today, some of you may experience things today, right? Some of you, I know I woke up this morning with such anxiety that I thought, oh my God, like butterflies in my stomach. I always think of that as anxiety. It could be excitement. It could be any number of things, but I also recognized it wasn't my own, right? If I checked in with myself personally, the weather was fine. But if I look outside, it's snowed. There are about 40-mile-an-hour winds whipping around out there, and it's crazy out that way. But here inside, it's fine. And the same thing, the same realization may be going on for all of you, that if you really check in with yourself personally, the weather's fine. But there are these outside influences that might make you believe or think or act like there's something major going on. So that's not to minimize people that are having issues or that there are the traumas and dramas that some people are experiencing. But even if they took a good look at what's going on, if they came inward, they would see that the weather is fine, that the outer world is just in a process of change. As well, some of your inner worlds are changing, and that can also add to the feeling that the place is crazy right now. Let's say good morning to people who are checking in. Good morning, Mimi and Angela and Debbie Hedden. And Mimi says, good morning to all from the gallery. That's right, it's Friday. Can't even believe that. Karen Devine, good morning. Linda Dennis, good morning. Tom, yippee. We're here. Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel, I was thinking about you this morning, wondering how things were going in your life. She said she goes to her first Mardi Gras event today. Good for you. That I know that's your favorite time of the year. Colleen, good morning. Mimi says 2 nights in a row I awoke at 333. Wow, what message are your angels or your guides trying to get into you? Judy Wheeler says that's what I'm feeling too. And good morning to you, Judy, by the way. So Debbie Hedden says good morning. So here we are, right? Here we are. So today, what I thought we would do is a bunch of different things. I could go on and on today talking about all of the different energies. But yesterday, I told you that I wanted to take a look at the eclipse through the houses, because that's where it comes in personally for you as an individual. And even though I can't tell you exactly based on your chart, unless I have your chart in front of me, what kinds of things are happening, I can give you sort of the general idea based on the houses where things are happening for you, and or what kinds of events that you may be experiencing, both having leading up to this particular day and also after this day, and in between now and June's next lunar eclipse. So, or July, I think it is. So today the moon is in Cancer. We are aware of that, right? As the moon is settling into the sign of nurturing and mothering and compassion and caring, safety, security, etc. It is in a trine today with Neptune. So that triggers our intuitive bodies. And it then doesn't surprise me that I would feel like I was experiencing the energy of the atmosphere, because Cancer energy sometimes causes us to feel the energy from around us, the collective, if you will. So Neptune heightens that, also puts a more spiritual spin on things, and that's happening very early in the day today. So even as we're speaking, this particular transit is in play. Then as we move through the day, of course, and we get to the time of the full moon, we have the moon in Cancer opposing the sun. We have it opposing Mercury, Saturn, and Pluto. This is crisis elicited, right? I wrote that and I'm like, where are those words coming from? But it is almost an invitation to crisis and trauma and drama to enter into the picture, wherever it is that you might be stuck in your life. Now, do you have to react to the traumas and the dramas? No. So I'm not saying that everybody's going to have trauma and drama going on in their lives, because we can choose how it is that we're going to respond to whatever it is that shows up in our lives over the course of time here. But it is often a crisis point, because most people are not paying attention to what life is showing them, right? They're busy going through their daily lives. They are not really aware. There's a lot of unconsciousness, right? Just think about your own self when you're driving in a car and you're going somewhere. Have you ever gotten somewhere and gone, now, how did I get here? Right? I don't remember the drive, right? We tend to go sort of unconscious at times. And so life then attempts to shake us up, wake us up, create an opportunity for us to make change. And yesterday's Pleiadian-Earth energy was about change. So change is already in the works, and any place that you're stuck at may elicit the crisis energy then through today and even as we go on. And it could have already even happened. So we have that happening in the background. We have some very powerful planets opposing this moon. I showed you the picture of that yesterday, where the moon appears to be the handle of the bucket with all of the Capricorn planets down at the bottom. And that's indeed what it looks like, and indeed what it feels like. There's a lot of change potential going on here in this particular time today. Now, adding to that, the sun is in a conjunction with Mercury, or I should say it the other way around. I wrote it Sun conjunct Mercury, but it's really Mercury conjunct the sun. And in this case, what happens is new messages are delivered, new ideas are delivered. And the sun is, of course, in the sign of Capricorn, and Mercury in the sign of Capricorn, bringing new order, perhaps a new way of being, a new way of balancing your work life, your career life, your professional life with your home life and your private life. So we're looking at that. And then, of course, the bigger time scale of things that are changing our governments, our institutions. Just ask the royal family, right? There's a lot of change and a lot of upset going on in the time-honored traditions of the royal family. And then, of course, in our own country, we have the same pressures, traditions, and the way that governments have had the government has always run, and the pressure to make change in that arena. So we have a lot of those new messages coming in, and new ways of being, new ways of doing things that are just right here. All we have to do is reach out and grab that and create something better. But as always seems to happen when we have these major potential opportunity times coming, we also have some scritchiness in terms of planets that are putting pressure from a different direction. So, for example, today Mars is in a semi-square, which is a 45-degree angle. So it's a half of a challenging 90-degree angle square. So it's a tension. It's a subtle sort of irritation that's going on in the field between the planet Mars and Sagittarius, which is having us look to our ideas of the way things are, our beliefs, our truths, and what is truth, what comprises truth. Where do we find the capital T truth, right? Do we go to Fox News? Do we go to MSNBC? Do we go to Politico? Do we go to CNN? Do we just go within? Where do we find our capital T truth? And that's under pressure somewhat today as well. And I saw it in the news stories this morning. Is, you know, there's differing accounts of things that have happened with the downing of that aircraft, the Ukrainian aircraft in Iran, and of course Iran blaming the U.S., the U.S. blaming Iran, and all these kinds of things that are going on. But where do we find the truth? That's the question, and that's the irritation. And in that irritation, in that need for us to get to the truth, or to get to something, to make something happen, we can be in a hurry. And we can be in a hurry to say or do something. And when we are in a hurry and we're impatient, which is what this triggers a bit, then we go unconscious and we unconsciously do things instead of staying in the present moment and acting from the present moment. We go either to the past and the fears that have been elicited for us in the past, or we go way out into the future, and we forget that we're living and breathing right here in the now, and there's really no energy either in front of us or behind us, right? We're not breathing there, we're breathing here. So be careful that you don't leap into or out of things just to break the tension that you might be feeling. And doing that, if you've been working on a solution to something over time, and it feels like today is the day to actually take that next step or take that action step, that's born out of consciousness, right? You've been working toward this. But if something comes up today and that tension just snaps and you leap, that is coming from a space of unconsciousness where you're just attempting to make the pain go away. So watch out for that today. Exploring your emotional needs is the major theme of both the full moon and, of course, this eclipse window. And those emotional needs for you personally are most clearly represented in the house that the eclipse is occurring in. But before I start talking about the houses, let me remind you that yes, the eclipse is occurring at 20 degrees of Capricorn. 20 degrees of Cancer. That's where the moon is. All of the other planets are at the other end in 20 to 23 degrees or so of, of Capricorn. And that brings up a very important point, is that this is all about a balance between the two energies on that axis. That even though you may have, let's say, a 12th house Cancer eclipse occurring, it's bringing in the energy from the 6th house, the opposite side, where Capricorn is in your chart. So you can't just look at one house, you almost have to look at the entire axis, because as typically happens when something is going on over here, it's drawing in maybe the more negative expression from the other side, and the positive expression too, but sometimes it's harder for us to see what that positive expression might be. So even though I'm talking to you this morning and giving you an idea of what house it's happening in, remember the opposite. So if your lunar eclipse is occurring in the 3rd house, when I read about the 9th house, listen to that as well, right? Because that's the opposing point, and it may be holding some information for you as well. And then let's see, what else was it that I wanted to say? Now, some of you, if you know your astrology charts, I don't have mine in front of me, but I pretty much know mine. Then you'll know that perhaps you have planets at 20 degrees, the degree of the eclipse, in other signs, and they may be feeding energy into the lunar eclipse as well. And you might remember that when we've talked before about degrees of signs or the degree of some kind of event like this eclipse at 20 degrees, we talk about an orb of degrees. So an orb just gives us that wiggle room on either side of the degree. So we use 5 degrees as an orb for eclipses. So that means if you have a planet anywhere between, let's say, 15 and 25 degrees of the eclipse, then, and that means that's giving us 5 degrees in front of and 5 degrees after, then likely you're going to have some kind of effect, right? That planet, whatever it might be, is likely going to create some kind of filter over the particular eclipse energy. Now, let me see if I can come up with an example. Let's say, for example, you have Saturn, and I know yesterday we talked to a couple of people who had Saturn sitting at a degree that's very close to 20 degrees Cancer. Then that means there's a lot of issues around responsibility about being your authentic and your authentic self, but also claiming your authority, standing up for yourself. There's also issues around discipline then that comes up about, you know, really what needs to change in your life in order to really accommodate what is happening with the lunar eclipse. And it adds a serious note to it all, as opposed to, say, a Venus that might be in that same span of degrees in your chart, where it lends maybe some beauty or some peace into it. So your charts are unique, and there's many varied ways that this can be playing out. The best way I know of for you to get a read on what's happening is to get a reading, which, by the way, I keep forgetting to tell people. This is so me, totally forgetting that through the month of January, I'm offering an $89 reading for 2020. And I mentioned it during the Astrology for 2020 webinar. I think those of you who got your recording of it got the invitation for that, but I haven't mentioned it at all, and I'm like, duh. So you can get a reading of 2020, $89. That's a special. It ends at the end of this month, where we look at, for you personally, where is all of this energy happening and what kinds of things are going on here. Okay, now also the lunar eclipses, the solar eclipses, tend to bring out and magnify pre-existing conditions. That's what makes these things even more, difficult in some respects, because it's like putting a giant, magnifying glass on top of an issue that's going on, or, things in your life exacerbating the issue. So if you have an issue around emotional needs being fulfilled or not fulfilled, then this microscope or this, magnifying glass in that area of your life is going to make it feel like it's even worse right now. It can also put the magnifying glass on something and make it better, right? It just depends on your chart and how everything is set up here for you personally. All right, so now before I go into the houses, I'm going to do a quick check here to see if there are questions going on. Linda says, thank you for the calendar and video. What does void of course mean? Very good question, Linda. Void of course is when the moon is no longer making any new connections to any other planets before it moves into another sign. And in fact, today the moon turns void of course, when you know it, at 3:58 p.m. my time, West Coast time, just after the eclipse and the fullness of the moon, and does not go into the sign of Leo until 4:16 a.m. tomorrow morning. So the moon does this dance where it's making all these connections, and then boom, it's just a lull, right? No new connections for a while. Then it makes a new connection to a sign and it changes the energy. So the moon, it's sort of the moon's in breath and out breath as it's moving through the signs. And of course, what drives the void of course is the planets and the other planets in the chart and where they're placed. So we've had a lot of long void of courses because most of the planets are very much, clustered in Capricorn area. And so the moon, when it moves through various signs, doesn't make any new contacts. So the list of void of course moons this month is, long compared to other months where it's, shorter. So I hope that answers your question, Linda, but it's a great question. Marissa, good morning. And Judy says, yay. Debbie Tibbetts-Tumio says, yes. Rita woke up at 2 a.m. or 2:30 on Thursday and couldn't get back to sleep. All is good today. Finally found something to wear after much anxiety. It's funny what things will trigger anxiety for us right now, Debbie, like stupid little things. Because there's so many other big things happening, right? It's just like adding that one little brick or that one card that knocks the whole house of cards down. So yeah, we're kind of on a thread. What is that called? You're on my last nerve kind of thing. So almost any little thing can, push us into a more response, reactive oriented response. If that makes sense. Okay. So let's see. Allison, good morning. Jacqueline Lopez, good morning. Happy grand solar rising all. Dusa, good morning. Amy, good morning. Marissa says, I'm feeling a bit confused. The only Cancer I see is my moon at 24 degrees in the sign of Cancer in my 4th house. Yes. So the lunar eclipse is occurring 4 degrees before your natal moon. So this is very emotional for you. This is in a very emotional time for you, as maybe you are struggling with how to balance home and family versus your career and your profession, and facing demands at both ends of the spectrum. Maybe your heart wanting to be with your family, but when you're with your family, then you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I need to be taking care of something in my career. So being pulled sort of, in 2 different areas. Gail, good morning to you. Jacqueline says, I received your free chart yesterday. Awesome. That's what you want to have with you in the mornings, Jacqueline, because when I'm talking about where Cancer is in your chart, you can look down and go, ooh, there it is, right? It's right there. It's on my 2nd house. I don't remember where it is in yours, but that's what that's for you to be able to see and to learn more about yourself. And Judy says, oh, do I get your chart? Or are you asking if you want a chart, Judy? If so, go to my website, janet@living-astrology.com. Request your free chart, and I will send it to you as well. Karen Devine, good morning. And Gail says, oh my gosh, I want to book a reading this month. You know where to find me, living-astrology.com. Judy says, need, LOL. Amy, good morning. I need a chart. So Judy, definitely hit me up and I will send that to you. And then, what I always suggest to everybody, this is my suggestion, but it would be very helpful if you set up your own personal notebook. And like for me, where is mine? I have this one, right? I took a picture in the calendar last year. It's my cover. Oops, I just put it upside down. And this is where I have all of the transit information that's coming up. It's upside down. That's not right. Where I keep my calendar for the month, right? This is what I use to talk to you guys every morning. And also then I have my own personal timeline that is part of the reports that I've been sending out to all of you for free. And then I can look at that and see what is going on for me personally. And then I keep all of these sheets even, right? Because who knows when today's a two for one, right? There's a lot on today's sheet. Because I never know when I might need to refer back to that. So lots of good stuff. So make your own notebook, put your human design chart in it, your gene keys hologenetic profile, your astrology chart. When I send you your astrology chart, it comes with a listing of what the houses are and what they mean. You might want to put that as a part of it, and any other things that I've put out there. For example, the gene keys and all the shadows and the gifts and the siddhis. The individual gates, I do believe I put that out there as well. And that way you're amassing your own resource for learning astrology. right? This is more than just me coming on and talking about astrology. It's about you learning it for yourself as well. Maybe not because you're going to go out and do what I do, but in the need to know yourself. That's the most important task you have here on this planet, to know who you are, to know your truth. Put that together. And if you have any questions about it, send it to me and let me know what you're struggling with, and I can help you figure out how to put it together. Marissa, my heart wants a specific type of job change to bring joy and fulfillment, but not sure this will help keep my family financially stable. That's all in your freaking head. Marissa, that is all in your head. Your head is involved in trying to figure things out, and that isn't the job that you have. Your job is to do the what. What do I want? Well, I want a job that looks like this, feels like this, is where I do these kinds of things. This is how I support the world. This is how I use my gifts and my talents. Then it's your job to keep focused on that, right? Not to keep going back and around in your head and wondering about whether that's going to keep your family financially stable or not. That part's not your job, right? Your job is to do what you love and to follow your intuition or your emotional self, whatever your authority is in your human design. And your strategy and all of that. So, Jacqueline, wow, I have a notebook for a few months, just not sure for what. Now you know. It's like what happened to me, Jacqueline. One day I was walking through, I think, Walmart or Target or some store, and I saw notebooks on sale. These pink ones, right? This is pink. And they were $1 each. So I picked up like 6 or 7 of them, however many of them there were. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with these, but I have since got one for my human design clients, one for my coaching clients, one for the morning show, one for all the work I do on different things. So they come in handy, right? They keep things organized. So get your notebook and start your astrology book. Asa, good morning to you. Tom Wright says dash. What does that say? Alice Cooper, School's Out. I'm not sure why you put that there, Tom, but I like that song anyway. Allison says, the notebook is a great idea. I love it. Let me figure out my actions and reactions and why. Good morning, Helen Harris. She's joining us from Auckland, New Zealand. Great to see you out there this morning. And hello to your little ones, Tova and Ezra, I think. Good morning, good morning. Marissa says, got it. My defined ajna got me again. Thanks for the reminder. You're welcome. And I don't know what that says, Tom. Turgid Irma Gerd. Okay, well, anyway. Now, let's transition over to the houses because I want to make sure we get that in today, and I want to save some time to do some card readings if possible for people, helping you get through this time. So now, again, let me remind you when I say, the first thing I'm going to say is the first house, but remember the opposing house to the first house is the 7th house. And in your chart, then that is an axis where this energy is being filtered into Cancer in your first house, if that's where you happen to have it. And the first house tells us that you might be in the process of changing your image. You might be redefining yourself. Right? You are undergoing a personal transformation of some sort. You might be needing to gain more autonomy, more independence, or perhaps you've been very much more independent and refusing help from other people. And so now you have to learn how to manage interdependence, right? The first house is all about you. It is a very self-centered place. And I was having a conversation with someone yesterday about self-centeredness. And, you know, every time that comes out of my mouth, I think, you know, the first thing I think about is that people believe that that's a bad thing. But being self-centered, if you're not self-centered, how can you go out in the world and do any good for others, right? Because then you're coming from a deficit as opposed to being filled up and giving from your largesse. So being self-centered is not the same, does not equal selfishness or narcissism or arrogance or any of those other things, right? It's all about being strong, knowing who you are, and from that point, being able to give to others, right? Okay. Now, because the first house is opposing the 7th house, it could bring up for you, if you have a first house eclipse, issues around your significant other. It could trigger some kind of drama. in your spouse or in, the person closest to you. But you have to be able to put your own needs first, right? You can't drop your world to go take care of someone else's issues. It doesn't mean that you don't have compassion. It doesn't mean that you don't help where you can, but you don't give away yourself to help someone else, right? That's the big lesson for those of you who have this happening in the first house. Now, if your eclipse is happening in the second house is a financial house. It's all about money. So you may be being pushed to make more good, sound financial decisions. You may be being pushed to make some actual financial plans. You may not have ever done that. You may not manage your own money very well. But during this time, you may have to learn how to do that. You may have to learn how to share the responsibility of earning resources in a family. You may have to learn to determine what's yours and what's not yours, right? Resources here are what we're talking about. This may be for you a time to end debt or to pay down your debt, right, with income. The second house is largely about your possessions, what you own, and the money that you earn, right? Your own personal earnings. And how do you balance that budget, right? And how do you work with those finances? And there's also self-worth engaged here in this second house. And maybe during the eclipse, you discover some of the decisions that you've been making financially that were really based in low self-worth and not feeling good enough about yourself to do what's good for you financially, or to go out into the world and ask for a premium income for the work that you do, right? So asking questions about, am I worthy? Dealing with your finances is all what is going on with the second house. But remember, the second house is opposing the 8th house. So there could also be some significant issues coming in around a spouse's income, or things that you hold jointly. For example, taxes or debt, what do you call that? Debt, loans and debt and credit. The credit stance that you're in or situation that you're in. So a lot of things to think about with that second house lunar eclipse. And of course, if you have Cancer on that second house, then what happens often is you're very security oriented around money. So for you, money really means being safe. And if there isn't enough money coming in, then your emotional needs don't feel met. So there's a lot of emotion tied up in the idea of earning and the amount of money that you have. All right, if you have a third house eclipse occurring, I wrote down 2 sentences: cat got your tongue, or insert foot in mouth, right? Because this is the communication place. And today may bring up all kinds, not just today, but leading up to today, and between now and even June and July, the idea of communication may be uppermost in your world. Have you been holding back communication? Have you been overly communicating here? Are you showing too much emotion? You know how we say wearing your emotion on your sleeve, and then all your words end up emotional. So if you're triggered by something like a negative emotion, then you're spilling out the need to keep your mouth shut, right? Comes into play. Or are you withholding what needs to be said? So everything around communication is a part of the eclipse for you, as well as issues around the mind. And, Marissa was talking about how she has a defined ajna, and the people with a defined ajna often have a set way of thinking, a set way of dealing with facts and figures. And so it's like the input comes in, maybe, something happens in the outer world, someone triggers something for you, and you immediately have a defined way of dealing with that information, or dealing or responding to that situation. Well, maybe it's time to question that, right? If you've always been emotionally reactive, this is your time to learn how to be in emotional response as opposed to reaction. So the mind, and what is the mind talking about? What are you telling yourself? What can you do? What can't you do? Who can you be? Who can't you be? Etc. Going round and round in your mind. Now, the third house also rules our siblings. So maybe some of you are dealing with issues around your siblings or your neighborhood, the people that are sort of just outside of your inner circle. And those kinds of things may be coming up. Travel, short distance travel is also a part of this house, as well as educational plans. Maybe some of you are planning to teach something or to go out and learn something, and that's a part of this third house as well. All right, I'm going to take a quick moment to see if anybody in the first, second, or third houses have questions. Gail says, I have that HDS chart from you and the notes from the class from 8/30/18. I wonder what class that was. Allison, Woto for mine if possible. Okay, already. What if the eclipse is happening near a midpoint? Does it trigger anything? Possibly, definitely something you would look at in a chart through a reading situation to see how important that position is. Karen Devine says, definitely need a card today. Helen, Tova, and Ezra are still asleep. I'm off to early morning beach yoga. Ooh, sounds like fun. Have a good time. Gail, or Judy says, absolutely need a reading. Heather Scott, good morning. Judy says, put your own needs first is taking care of yourself before you can help others, right? It's like putting on the oxygen mask if you're in an airplane before you try to help everybody else put theirs on. Because why? If you can't breathe, you can't help other people. Makes so much sense. Angela says, yes, absolutely to the self-worth and money. Gail says, I'm going to a full moon tarot circle tonight as a release and discussion of 2019 and the new 2020. Nice, that will be fun. Angela says she has Capricorn in the second house. So Angela, then your actual lunar eclipse is occurring in the 8th house, and yet it is pulling down that energy from the 8th house and does affect your second house as well. So you'll want to listen when I get to that 8th house. And let's see. I love all of these questions and all of these comments. Linda Marie says, hi, Janet, how do I find out which house the eclipse is in my chart? Great question. First, you get your astrology chart that looks like this without all the writing on it, of course. And you find Cancer in the chart. And I'm going to highlight Cancer here for you. Cancer, most charts do not come with the words written in that tell you where Cancer is. But Cancer looks like the number 69 on its side, which is kind of funny, but it's supposed to represent the crab, maybe the claws of the crab. And so that's what Cancer looks like, and it could be any one of 12 places in your chart here. So that's what it would look like. And we're looking at 20 degrees of the sign. So let's see, here's 20 degrees. I'm just drawing in a little circle at the 20th degree, right? Because when I wrote this chart up, of course, the moon wasn't there yet, right? It's getting there, but it isn't there yet. And that is how you would find where your eclipse is. Now, any planets in this part, inside of the wheel, in that area, tells you that you have planets that are involved in this lunar eclipse. If this was the chart of a person, then what we would have is their north node and their moon very close to that eclipse. But that's not what this type of chart is. So I hope that helps. And of course, having your own chart is what you need to do first. Have that. Good morning, Londa. Okay, any other question? Where in the chart do I look to see which house it is on? Good question. Again, so you see in a chart, the chart I sent you, Jacqueline, has this little circle here. And in that little circle, just to the inside of that little circle is numbers. Each of those numbers tell you the house. The houses are these pie-shaped pieces here that you see. And they all begin here at the 9 o'clock position where you see the letters AC. You can't see them there because I pretty much wrote over that. But here's where it begins. Your first house goes this way, counterclockwise around the chart. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and back to the first house again. But it's this little circle up here that tells you what house you're dealing with. And the house is outlined by the pie shape of the pieces. So where it begins and where it ends, going counterclockwise around the wheel. Oh, good questions. Debbie Tibbetts, Toomey, I'm not sure what house I'm in, and yes, I would like to know. Okay, blah, blah, blah. What information will I need to help you do a reading for me? Your birth time, your birthplace, and birth date. So that's the basic information. Okay, now let's go on to the next houses in this. Holy moly, I'm going to speed up a little bit here, guys. Sorry. The fourth house, of course, is the house that is aligned with Cancer itself. So the fourth house is ruled by Cancer. And if you have Cancer on the fourth house, it's all about home and family. Time to maybe repair your home. Is there something that's been hanging out there and you've just been babying it along, like your hot water heater, your refrigerator, your freezer, your roof? And this may be the time where you can no longer hold off the repair. Take care of the repair. Perhaps it's time to renovate something in your home. There could be family dramas that you're dealing with and family concerns that you're dealing with. How to balance home and family versus your work and your profession. Remember yesterday we talked about the Duke and the Duchess of Sussex. No doubt, hands down, if I looked at their charts somewhere, one of them has Cancer in that fourth house, no doubt, and is why this is really something important that they're bringing up right now. They may even have Capricorn in one of their fourth houses. So it brings up, how do we balance that, right? How many demands outside of us do we allow to take part in us versus how much are we willing to give? So it brings that into balance. So fourth house also then, because the 10th house is the career and the profession house, you're having to balance most likely the amount of time you spend away from the home. The fifth house is the house of romance, love, and creativity, and our children. So as you can imagine, you're probably dealing with issues around romance, around love affairs. Maybe true love is being tested. Is this a true love relationship, or is this just a love affair? And the way you'll know the difference is because during this period of time, unconditional love will be part of the quest, right? So if you are putting conditions upon one another in that relationship, it is not one that's meant to last. It's more of the affair end of things. So if the time period that we're in could expose problems in that, where one or the other of you is insisting that the other one change, then that becomes conditional love and not unconditional love. If you are in a true love situation, that test will, your relationship will stand the test of that kind of thing happening. It could also be in the fifth house that you've become too serious, or maybe you've become too pleasure seeking. It's about balancing the two, right? All work and no play makes Janet a dull girl. Or if you're not doing the work that you need to do, then you may not be getting the success that you hope to have. So balancing both the need for working and being serious, and also fun and play. This also is about your children, having a child, perhaps being pregnant, having just had a child, and dealing with a newborn, or the issues around having a new child in the home, maybe dealing with older children and their issues and having to help them move through those things, dealing with your own inner child work, as well as creative projects that are maybe coming to a culmination now, or maybe some of you are getting ready to embark on a creative endeavor. Sixth house is opposite of the 12th house. The sixth house itself rules sort of the job that you actually do, where the 10th house rules the career or the profession or how you're recognized in the world for the work you do. The sixth house is more the nuts and bolts of the work that you do, right? The environment that you work in, the people that you work with, the work that you actually do, the hands-on. And so this may be a time where you're making changes in your daily routine at work. Maybe your job has changed somewhat. Maybe there are new things that have been added to your workload. Maybe there are some things that have been taken away, and it can be creating some stress within you. There's also the possibility, because this house rules the health of the body, that you're dealing with some health issues. And if so, these are not new things necessarily, but maybe things that have been building up. So it's a great time to improve your work conditions or your health condition. Exercise, nutrition, healthy lifestyle, all of that comes into play here. A job or a project at work could end or begin now during this period of time. But for sure, the focus tends to be on health and on the job itself. And it pulls in some of the more psychological issues of the 12th house because it's the opposing house. So there may be some issues that you're dealing with the mind and the psychology of something. For instance, what if you discovered during this period of time that the health of your body is really a reflection of something that's been going on in your psychological mind for the last several years or months, and that the outpicturing in the body is really having its source in the psychology, and you've got to go there to work on the problem as well as deal with the physical. And actually, you could make the case that that is always happening, and that would be because these two are in an axis across from one another. The 7th house, partnerships are being tested in this particular area. That could be your spouse or your significant other, a business relationship, or even your adversaries, because this is the house of open enemies as well as partnerships. Isn't that an interesting thing to put together in one house? So here you're having to balance the needs of yourself to the needs of another person or another entity. And it brings up the echo of the 1st house, right? Where I have to be self-centered and I can only give when I have myself full. And on the other end here is that I can't just stay in the self-need. I have to also recognize that I'm part of a partnership and both need fulfilling. This is a time for compromise, for cooperation, for negotiation. You may suddenly find in your work world or in your job scenario that you have more clients or more social contacts. This is a Libra-owned house, and as such, it has that socializing aspect to it. So that can equate to some really good things if you're willing to get out of your own way and get out into the world a bit. The 8th house, this is always such an interesting house to think about because it's the house of transformation, sex and death and rebirth. This is all about the drama around other people's money and about transformative things in your life. So we could be dealing, if you have an 8th house lunar eclipse, it's maybe something that's changed in your spouse's income, or maybe some kind of debt or tax issue, maybe an issue around your investments. So if you have an 8th house lunar eclipse, this is a great time for you to do a fiscal checkup on the things that the money that you don't necessarily earn from the work that you do, but the money that comes to you from other places. It's time to settle debts, financial or even other kinds of debts. Maybe you owe somebody a phone call, settle up, right? It's a great time for that. There also could be a new source of income coming into your life. So that might be an expectation for the next 6 months here as we move through the eclipse window. One way or another, you're dealing with money that's not necessarily earned by you, and also dealing with the transformative energies. There's also the 8th house here also brings us attention to the things, the taboos in our world that we don't really want to talk about, right? You know how it's not polite to speak about politics or to, talk about religion or to talk about the occult or, in certain polite parts of society, there are these rules and what have you. And the 8th house is sort of the place where we want to release ourselves from those kind of taboos and from that kind of superstition that says if we, do something, then, bad is going to come to us. So the 8th house has a lot of drama around it. It's a Scorpio ruled house. So it can bring up some intensity. It can bring up passion. It can bring up sexual content or contact that's built out of passion, but doesn't necessarily go anywhere or have any long lasting effect. In human design, we call this that sex is only entered into with clarity over time, but the 8th house sometimes creates drama around sex that hasn't been entered into with clarity over time. So all these different kinds of things could be a part of the adventure of an 8th house lunar eclipse. The 9th house tests your personal beliefs because this is a very Sagittarius area of the chart. It is about broadening your horizons and getting out and seeing the world beyond your front door, beyond your nation or your tribe. So it brings up a need for us to be travelers or to be adventurers, to discovery, and to that feeling of seeing the bigger picture or the broader horizons. We may seek or complete even a higher educational degree at this point in time. You may broaden your horizons by taking a leap of faith. Again, Jupiter rules here, and we may, if you have a 9th house lunar eclipse, maybe you finally get the chutzpah to make that leap, right? To take that leap and make that change. The opposite house is the 3rd house, so it may be about taking that leap into finally communicating your life story through writing, through song, through poetry, maybe finally launching that teaching career, or in some way getting a book or a work of art published. So getting a wider audience, because this is about expansion. And the 10th house, focus on your career goals, right? That is what the 10th house is about, the bigger goals for how do you want to show up in the world? That's a great question for this lunar eclipse in the 10th house. This is where you need to be competent, be the master of what it is, of your craft, if you will, in the world, to be able to be recognized and rewarded for your authority, for your authenticity in what you're doing. And I don't necessarily mean that you're rewarded from the outer world, but the reward that you feel within, the recognition that you feel, the satisfaction you feel when you're really living your truth. And balancing, again, work and home, a part of this as well, drawing in that 4th house or energy of home and family, and balancing the two of those things. Balancing the old and the tradition with the new and the fanciful, right? The idealism versus realism. So here in the 10th house, we're having to merge those. The 11th house deals with friendships and the networking, social atmosphere that you find yourself in, the groups that you are aligned with. And if you have an 11th house eclipse here, you may be finding yourself tested in those groups, in those networks, and in those relationships. And as everybody is experiencing something different during this time, they bring it to the group, right? And now it's played out in the midst of the people that you surround yourself by. So there can be some drama going on in the friendships and the networks and the groups that you're a part of. This is also the house of goals and dreams and aspirations. So maybe your hopes and dreams are being taken to the next level. Maybe you're actually putting some method to the madness and getting your foot out and doing something, treading into new territory. What are you manifesting? That's a good question here. And you may also be seeing the culmination of a creative project here, as the 5th house is the house of creativity. It's the opposite point, and that creativity may find its culmination point at this, if you have an 11th house lunar eclipse. And if you have a 12th house lunar eclipse, the need for rest, renewal, withdrawing a bit to sort of recharge your batteries is a very important part of this eclipse for you. You may have been very busy and doing, and now it's time to, recharge and reset so that you have the strength and the stamina to take out in the world and continue on your journey. Here is a call to balance the mundane, everyday work routine with the needs of spiritual expression. So you can't hear the imbalance comes when we're too much in the physical world and we forget that we're also a very spiritual being. So balancing spiritual and physical. And it's also a place in our chart where secrets get exposed. And it could be a secret that you've been holding from someone else, but likely it's more like that something that you've been holding back from yourself, that you've not wanted to really face, comes to light. And that could be a fear, a limiting thought, a block, resistance, but it comes to light for healing, not to beat you up. And the eclipse allows you to move through that and release it and let it go. Finally, right? Okay, that was a lot. And now we are very much at the end of the show here this morning. So I know there's probably questions and I'm just scrolling through. Okay, so I see a lot of hearts and a lot of comments coming up. That's great. So hopefully all of that information was helpful for you. I think rather than doing individual, no, let's do a couple of individual readings here. Hold on, I've got to get my deck. I'm going to scroll back. Diane Pegram, great to see you. Haven't seen you yet this year. Yeah, I don't remember who wanted a reading first. I'm sorry. Okay, so I remember, dang, so many comments, it's hard to scroll back. So please, I'm going to scroll to the very end. Marissa did it. Card, please. Woto. Okay, please, if you've sent me a message saying you wanted a card reading, I don't want to have to scroll back now, and I'm scrolled down to the bottom, so please just put in again that you want a card reading and what type of card reading. Marissa, thank you for doing that. You didn't get a card reading on Monday, Tom, because I really don't try to do them on Mondays. I try to only do them on Fridays. Mondays, I pull cards for the collective, typically. So, Marissa, here's your card. It's the cheetah card, and it was upside down. And it's the card that says, go the distance. And it is number 47, which is an 11. So there's some kind of enlightenment here. Go the distance, upside down. So let's see what that means for you. And yes, Tom, I will give you a card. 47, not 27. So 47, go the distance. The essential meaning is about endurance, strength, and the long haul. But it was in protection. It was upside down. Excuse me. Apparently, I've been doing a lot of talking. All right, the protection message is this, Marissa. Do you feel as if you've been wandering in the desert now for ages and ages and nothing is happening? When you conjure up the image of a desert, you picture parched lips, sunburned skin, and mirages, but there's more to it than that. Amid the hot sands are creatures with resilient spirits, tough skins, and the willingness to burrow deep underground for water so that they may thrive. This is a time of developing survival skills and resilience. You are learning how to conserve your strength, and in this temporary time of austerity, it's wise to be selective about where you expend your energy. Listen to the call of your soul because it will never lead you astray. This is an important time for letting go of what is not important. That's an important one, and speaks to your mind being so active and needing to let go of the mind in favor of listening to the soul or your heart. All right, that's a good one for you, I think, Marissa, given some of the things that you've expressed today. Tom, I didn't get a card on Monday. Please, Woto, you got it. Here we go. So this will be for you, Tom. So the three decks that we have as a choice are the Woto, Wisdom of the Oracle, Spirit Animals, and the Goddess deck, which I could reach down and get if someone wanted a Goddess card. I had to move them off my desk this week because I have so many other things going on. Tom, it's time for you to chop wood. The card for you is chop wood. Chop wood, carry water, right? Card number 42, which is a 6. So that is kind of asking for some balance and harmony. Let's read what the card says here. 42, and it was right side up. The essential meaning is being grounded in everyday experience and humility. The message is there are times when the big dream is meant to lie dormant in your consciousness so that you can pay attention to the simple chores in your life. Consider why pruning a tree is the forerunner of delighting in its beautiful blooms when it is in full blossom. The mundane act of pulling off dead leaves, watering the soil, and then leaving it to be, to let nature take its course is an important step in manifestation. Taking your attention away from your goal brings you into a state of receptivity. This is the deeper purpose for releasing attachment. When you engage in everyday tasks in a meditative, contemplated way, you clear your energy to receive your aha, which brings you ever closer to what you seek. And of course, here we are at the full moon, which is a time of that aha, of revelation and epiphany. So perfect. Go out and chop wood, carry water. And let's see here. After Tom was Jacqueline, would love a card if, yes, all I need to know is what kind of card you want. Jacqueline, I'm going to draw you a Woto, Wisdom of the Oracle. By the way, I'm using the Wisdom of the Oracle deck by Colette Baron-Reid, and that's one of my favorite decks. I also use the Spirit Animal Oracle from Colette Baron-Reid, and then the Goddess deck from Colette Baron-Reid. I wonder who my favorite Oracle card person is. Used to be Doreen Virtue, but that changed. Okay, here is your card, Jacqueline. It is the card that says Orphaned. It's card number 5, and it's a very sad-looking card, actually. I know the message, though, isn't that of sadness, and it was actually upside down, so that might bode well here for this card, number 5. So the essential meaning of the card is a sense of loss, an identity crisis, recognizing that you don't fit in, the need to belong, and uncertainty about your place. Sounds like a lot of us have that issue. And of course, it was upside down. So we're reading. The shadow side of this card speaks to the essence of abandonment. Perhaps you feel a need to remain apart because intimacy is too threatening. It also warns against creating inappropriate family structures in order to conceal old wounds. It's time to address the unhealthy alliances you formed and make a decision to heal the past. You will not be abandoned by the world if you claim yourself as whole. Not all relationships are dysfunctional, and not all of them will disappoint you. Don't abandon yourself. You can connect to others in a healthy way once you recognize your patterns and consciously choose to interrupt them. Life wants to love you. Let it. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So maybe you're dealing with some kind of relationship issues right now, and that is giving you maybe the courage to stand up for yourself, right? So let's hope that that's what that is. Allison, Woto, please. Allison, this is for you. Out of the Wisdom of the Oracle. Woto. Ooh, Allison, all that glitters. Look at all that gold. Of course, the saying is all that glitters isn't gold. But this is card number 16, which is a 7. Maybe you're talking about spiritual gold here. Let's see what that's about. Card number 16. All right, the essential meaning is a need to see beyond the superficial, the desire to don a mask or dress something up to disguise its true nature, trying to be something you're not, chasing after every sparkly new thing, or being mercurial. And your card was upright, and here's the message. It's only human to want to adorn oneself in trinkets and paint a pretty picture of oneself. It's natural to want to acquire the trappings of status or to deny them as a statement of rebellion. But if it sparkles, is it better? Whether it's a fast car, a big house, a title or position, the stamp of authority, or the sparkling of diamonds, these icons let you know something about a person, place, or thing. Or do they? The truth is that people seek to acquire things because of what they will do for them and how they symbolically will elevate them and make them more attractive. This card signals that it's time to see beyond the adornments and probe underneath the surface. Learn to recognize the masks people wear and the motives underlying them. Imagine that all the glitter is gone. Would you still desire the object or the person? Woo! Great question, girl. All right, not a bad card at all. Okay, after Allison said, Judy Wheeler says, yes, please. Okay, I'm going to Judy. I think you're still fairly new, so I don't know if I've done a card reading for you out of the Woto. So since it's on my desk, let's do Woto. Okay, and so this is for you, Judy Wheeler. And then Deuce is requesting one for the collective, most definitely. Karen Devine would like a card. All right, let's take a look and see what I can do here. All right. Oh, you get a little bit of a story here, Judy. The first card is upside down, and it is the Thinker. Are you too much in your head? card number 44, which is an 8. And if I remember correctly, didn't you tell us you were also working a 4 life path yesterday? So something about the 4, maybe you thought yourself into a box. We'll take a look at that. And then card 43, you get neighbors. Card 43 is about deep knowing, and it was right side up. So maybe you're giving up thinking for knowing. Let's see here. So 44. 44 is upside down, and that card, the essential meaning is strategy, being analytical and logical. And the protection message is you might be suffering from analysis paralysis. Thinking has its place, but trying to figure everything out logically is not going to work right now. Your conclusions will likely be faulty, and you may act upon false assumptions that will get you in a jam. Give your mind a rest, do something creative, exercise or meditate. Soon you'll come to your senses, and an aha moment will bring new clarity. What are the chances we would get 2 aha type cards today on a day of ahas and epiphanies? All right, let's read 43, which is about deep knowing. All right, this is the other part of the story for you. And deep knowing says intuition, listening to the oracle within, empathy and hypersensitivity. So in the message upright says intuition is the faculty that allows you to enter into a dialogue with source, the consciousness that you are a part of but cannot see within the naked eye. It's perplexing that people are taught to ignore this natural capacity to navigate their journeys, to access their inner guidance. Know that you have an ability to read between the lines and find all the truth that was missing when the story was told. This deep knowing allows you to open the door to wisdom far greater than what is available in the limitations of human experience. You're given information that may make no sense whatsoever to the logical mind or the 5 senses, but which is 100% correct and true. The trick is to listen and then to act accordingly. You're now invited into this sacred dialogue of deep knowing. So tune in and trust your vibes. They will be right. Ask and you will receive answers from unusual sources. Analysis paralysis. Get out of the head and into your body and listen to your body's wisdom, perhaps your intuition, etc. I hope that helps, Judy. Dusa, I will definitely pull one for the collective, but right now I'm going to go to Karen Divine. Please, any card, not animal. All right, well then we'll do Woto. Woto, which does have some animals in it, but they're not specifically spirit animals. So let's see. This is for Karen Divine. Round and Round. Card 25. It's actually a beautiful card. It sort of has the spiral of a shell there and sort of, showing us the spiral of consciousness. It's a number 7. It's 25, but 2 plus 5 is a 7. So let's see what Round and Round has to say for you, Karen. Went too far. $25, Round and Round. The essential meaning of the card is the spiral quality of events when a lesson isn't quite integrated. Cycles you are challenged to break. Revisiting a pattern from a new perspective. And the message here is the appearance of this card is a reminder that although it may appear that you've gone backward, the truth is that you are standing at a higher level, looking down into your circumstances. You will learn something, do something better, and break a cycle set up in the past. You actually have a bird's eye view of your initial footprints and can access the wisdom and the lessons learned. That's a great card. That's for you, Karen. Oh no, Diane. Hubby had a heart attack on Christmas, could use guidance. Diane, I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope that he's doing better. And of course, all of us will send out as much loving energy as we can, healing energy to your husband. Diane, let's give you a Wisdom of the Oracle card. Okay, Marissa, thank you for bringing me that message. Judy, you got your card. Okay. Diane Pegram. I wonder if this is part of your lunar eclipse too, Diane. You also have a story. Part of the story that's upside down or in protection is called the Fates. The Fates. So here's the card, what it looks like. Card number 17, which is an 8, but it's called the Fates, but she was upside down. And the second card is Yin. Yin, the card number 2, the feminine principle, the principle of receiving. I wonder if you're trying to do it all yourself now, and you need to be able to receive. So let's look at the Fates first. Card number 17. The Fates is about fate, karma, acceptance that there are things you cannot change, and knowing what those things are. And Fates was in protection, so it says, it is difficult to understand why painful things happen to good people. Fate is a mystery after all. Yet what we do with our circumstances, the way in which we respond to life's challenges, is how we rise up to greet our destiny. Now is one of those times to be aware of your powerlessness to change certain situations and then surrender to acceptance. Hang in there. Life will only get better. Act as if you believe that, for the only thing you can control right now is your attitude. When you align with the Fates, being mindful of what you can and cannot change, serenity will come to you. And then, of course, the Yin. The Yin's essential meaning is the feminine principle of receptivity, letting someone else make the first move, gathering information and taking in cues, the art of conscious allowing. This is a time of calculated receptivity as you gracefully await what is coming to you, ready to accept it when it appears. Yin does not involve frozen dreams or even resting, but rather consciously allowing things to flow to you, poised to receive the bounty that will be made available to you. It implies sensitivity as you alertly study the action of others and contemplate how they will affect you and yours. Remember, you must make space for miracles to appear. Be the shaped, not the shaper, and you'll see how quickly your dreams manifest. Wow. So also remember during this time to take good care of you, right? We get so caught up in helping our mate or our loved one that we forget to take care of ourselves, and you need to be full in order to help him. So that may be a big lesson here for you in all of this. Judy, Marissa, so this is a card for Debbie Hedden. She didn't say which deck. Okay, so I do have to go in a few minutes. I have a client at 10, so I've got to do a lot before then. Okay, so this is for Debbie Hedden. So Debbie, when you listen to this later, thank Marissa for bringing it to my attention, and thank you, Marissa, for bringing it to my attention. Debbie, Debbie, not for you. And it's upside down, so it's card number 6, and upside down, so it's a protection message, and not for you makes me think that something's going on that you're getting involved with that isn't necessarily your job. So the card's essential meaning is a clear knowing that something is being denied you. Rejection is God's protection. But it was upside down, so let's see what that means. Don't chase after what flees from you. Don't obsess over what eludes you. Don't bang your head against the wall. There is nothing romantic about what is unavailable, no prize given for torturing yourself, and nothing to be gained by refusing to see the red flags that have been waving since you began your pursuit. Now is the time to walk away. There are other goals, other loves, other gains, other successes waiting for you. The way out of obsessing is radical acceptance and surrender. Spirit wants only the best for you. This is a sign that you have something much better waiting for you. Trust. Ooh, good card. Good message in that card, I think, too. Okay. Angela, if there's time, a goddess or Woto. I'm going to grab the goddesses because I feel like doing something different. So let's do the goddesses, shall we? I need more desk room. Okay, so here is the goddess deck. And this is for you, Angela, and for that beautiful baby that I see pictures of all the time, Astra. Gorgeous, gorgeous little girl. All babies are gorgeous. Okay, so interesting, because we had this card last week, but I don't know that it was your card. This is Bronwyn, which says forgiveness. She's a beautiful, beautiful goddess, and I believe she was Celtic. Card number 7. So let's see what this means for you. Forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. Okay, here we go. And she was right side up, so it's an empowerment message. And she says, sometimes life invites us into conditions that challenge us to the core. As the Celtic goddess Bronwyn forgave those who caused her own death by a broken heart, she asks you to set yourself free from the seeds of resentment that will surely choke the life out of your dreams. We are wounded by others and weave stories about our hurts and losses that live on in our hearts and minds. We come to distrust the potential of love and connection. No matter what your story or when it began, forgiveness is the key to freedom here. Forgiveness allows us mending and repair, opening the heart to give and receive. If you need to forgive yourself or others, now is the time to do it. Keep your heart open and you can begin again. Only beauty, freedom, and treasures are found in the spirit of forgiveness. The goddess Bronwyn is here to support you. Lovely, lovely, lovely. That's a good message for all of us, I think. I do believe. And I don't like it when that happens, but it happened again. Dang it. All right, I think that's the end of the readings. I'm going to do what Dusa asked now, and I'm going to draw a card for the collective. And I'm going to use the goddess deck because I really believe that this is, this goddess energy is what we're in, in being empowered to bring in and bring forth in a more powerful way. And let's see, this is for the collective. What we need to know for this eclipse as a people, as a planet. And what's funny is that we keep getting certain cards, and we've had this card too, and it's Yukiana, and what we need for the planet is stillness. Yukiana is a winter goddess, card number 52, which in human design is the gate of restraint and stillness and the shadow of stress. So what we are needing to maybe release is stress. Where did that book go? 52. Let's read this one. I think this is probably a really good message for us, given the conditions the world is in at the moment. And she was upright, so it's an empowerment message, and it says, the Japanese goddess of winter, Yukiana, calls you to a practice of daily meditation and stillness to prepare you for greater productivity and results. Being open and receptive, slowing down, and allowing for time to dream activates your partnership with the universe, so you can truly set your intentions in motion. Then, almost without effort, you discover their vibrational match in the world of form. Just as the life force quietly builds within a seed buried under snow, so too will the energy build in the seed of your desires before manifesting with no effort on your part. You will find how easy it is to co-create while implementing a practice of stillness and receptivity. Let others make the first move at this time as you assess and observe the world around you from the profound position of stillness and neutrality. In this way, the world becomes more intimate, yet you know to take nothing personally. When the goddess Yukiona comes to support you, be still. This calls in the miracles. The action now is non-action. Wow. Cooler heads shall prevail. I think that's the message here. Restraint in all things, right? Stillness, hearing the small voice within. All right, guys. There was so much to talk about today, right? That we didn't even get to look at the weekend ahead. Let me just take a quick peek before I sign off here to let you, that's December. I need January. There we go. This weekend, Jupiter and, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction is this weekend. We've been living it. There's nothing new there to say, right? We've been living this deconstruction, reconstruction. We'll continue to live deconstruction and reconstruction throughout the year. irregardless of Sunday being the day that these two finally come together, because they've been so close throughout the whole of 2019, and now they will hang around one another for a while yet in 2020. So be calm, cool, and collected. Forgiveness, that's a great message. Stillness, that's a great message. So take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday morning, 8 o'clock West Coast time. Take care. Bye for now.